Right, everyone, this is welcome everyone to this week's and welcome everyone to this week's edition of The Recovery. And this week I am joined by one of the most amazing people on the planet, Davina McCall.
Aww.
Hi, Davina.
Hi.
I've been wanting you on here for so long because, you know...
That's very hard to get.
You were, and you know what, for me, it's like whenever I would think of recovery, and you would be the pinnacle of recovery for me. You know, it's, I've known you a very, very long time. A very long time. And I think the first time I ever met you was with my friend Sam, and we were in an after hours club called Dirtbox.
Oh my God, yes.
Flag shop off of Tottenham Court Road. And it was about 8 in the morning, and we could hear kookaburra noises coming from the other side of the room. That's the one. And we were like, who's making that noise? And we went over, I mean, I was off my nut, and it was you, the kookaburra.
It's so funny because you, Sam, Jackie, Paul, we all still reference the kookaburra. It made a big impression.
Yes, it did. And you know what? Because it was just so, you had this energy about you that we loved, and it was just like there was so much like you were so mischievous and so much like around you, and we're just like, oh, we love her, we want her in our back. You know what I mean? And we kind of like, that was it. That was from day one. We kind of all hit it off. So there was so much insanity.
But it was a funny thing in those days. Like when you went out clubbing, I did feel like I got adopted by people. Like sometimes I'd go somewhere on my own, you know, and I was 16. Like I just turn up on my own. I wonder who's going to adopt me tonight. I just run around like a loon, and sort of some group of. It was really funny. It was very friendly back in those days.
No, also people are drawn to that like that addict energy. Even though at that time we're not addicts, we don't know that we're addicts, but we have that energy, so much energy. And you know, it's coming out of every orifice, and we're like, we just don't know what to do with it. So we kind of just run around. People love that. People are attracted to that.
Do you think you posted something on your Instagram page that really made me laugh? Or was it you? Oh no, it was Nick True, I think, posted it.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, it was on Facebook actually, and it was about about Limelight, and there was an old granny pushing a trolley, and she was going to her granddaughter. Yes, we used to go to a club with a big window in it, and it was called Limelight, and we all used to go, and the granddaughter's going, yes, Granny, yes, yes. And I was thinking, you know, we will hark back to those times, but I do feel like it was the most extraordinary time for clubbing. I know a lot of it was a haze for me, but there were, and I maybe it's just nostalgia, but I think it was like peak clubbing.
I agree with you. I'll tell you the reason why I think that is because we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
We weren't on our phones. We weren't somewhere else. We were present. We were actually in the limelight. We were in Café de Paris. We were in the WAG Club. We were in all of those clubs. We were actually present. We weren't looking at where everyone else is on our phones, thinking, oh, look where they are. We're us wanting to be there. So therefore, we were there. We were in the moment. And that's what's different today, because 95% of the time, we're not in the moment anymore. We're somewhere else.
Yeah, I thought about that. I took Holly to a couple of gigs. I took her to a Drake gig, and I took her to a Justin Bieber gig. And I looked around and I thought, my God, none of you are actually watching the gig through your eyes. You're watching it through a phone.
It's mad, isn't it?
And I thought, oh, wow. And actually, Justin Bieber got a bit annoyed with people, and he said, like, for a couple of songs, just everybody just put your phones away and just, like, let's all. And I thought, oh, that's quite cool that you did that, like, to try and just get these kids to realise that, because I don't think they know they're doing it.
They might as well be at home and watching it on their phones. Yes. Do you know what I'm saying? You're not getting that energy by putting that in front of you. It's kind of like where we're at today, you know, with plastic screens in between us and our friends. You know, that energy kind of bounces back off of it. You know, it's like, oh, it's not real. And it's the same thing if you're going to a concert and you're looking like this at your phone while filming it, you're not in the moment. You're like, wait and see how many people are following you on your live feed.
And also, you won't miss it, because I've got a lot of stuff on my phone that I filmed that I've never looked at again.
Exactly, that's just it.
when you remember it and when you feel it and when you were there and when you're fully conscious. And I'm saying this as much for myself as I am for my kids, because I do it too.
Yeah.
That, like, it's in your head, it's such a clear and amazing memory as well. You don't have to film it and everything. You won't miss it. You won't miss out on life.
You know, it's like I've got things that I couldn't tell you what I filmed, but I have memories that I went to gigs or to clubs and I can remember exactly who said what, when and how and where, at what time and what I was wearing. You know, that doesn't happen anymore because it's all there. You're allowing your social media to do that for you. And I kind of think, you know, it completely, for somebody like us, I mean, I'm completely addicted to social media and I have a real problem with it a certain amount of days. Some days I have 11 hours of screen time. That's a problem. And I kind of think, you know, it's another form of addiction. And that's what this program is about. This series is about other people's addictions and people relating to those addictions. And that's why, you know, for me, you're such on a pedestal when it comes to this stuff, because you've been around and you've helped so many people through your own mistakes that you get to, like all of us, we get to see other people's mistakes through our eyes because we've lived it. And I really want to talk about that still. I really want to go back, way back to Kookaburra days and you know, what life was like then and how your addiction kind of took over.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Over the years, you know, when I've told my story, there are so many different things, reasons why. I thought for many years, I just thought it was all down to the fact that, and this isn't a sob story because I do not see myself as a victim in any way. And I've told this story in my book, that it is just a fact that when I was nearly 4, my mum took me to my granny's house, who was my dad's mum in England. And she said, I'm going on holiday and I'll be back in 2 weeks. And she never came back. And I then ended up feeling like a guest at my granny's, but actually it was all organised and I was supposed to stay there. It's just my mum obviously didn't know how to say, like, you're not going to live with me anymore. And in those days, it was so funny because we know this isn't the case anymore. But when I was a little girl, it was always, this terrible thing has happened to this child, but let's just pretend it hasn't happened and they'll forget about it. But we kind of know now that actually, you know, I needed to process that. And I needed to know, because I was still going to visit my mum in the holidays, but I didn't understand that. I just was flailing around. I just thought I was sort of a guest that had overstayed her welcome at my granny's and that my mum wasn't coming back. And I really felt kind of abandoned. But, you know, that might have been the core of the issue, but I feel like there is an overarching reason why I used. And that is that I constantly, and possibly down to that key moment in my life, I had a hole. And I had a hole here, and it just really, really hurt. Like if it was all, the tears were always here, and if we started talking about the hole, and I wasn't quite sure how to verbalize what it was, insecurity, instability, I'd start crying very, very easily. Like, it was so easy to get me to cry when I was a little girl because I didn't know what to do. And when I took my first drug, so, I mean, I probably started smoking weed when I was like 13, 14, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It made me so paranoid, but it kind of filled the hole for a minute. So I kept trying it, even though I hated it. But I thought, well, it makes me feel a bit better, even though I'm so paranoid. I hated weed so much. And, you know, and I think basically the warning signs were there. You know, you keep going back to the drug you hate, just in case it's going to make you feel better. But then when I discovered other drugs later, so I guess the next one that I took would have been speed because it was cheap.
Yeah.
And it was available when you're a teenager, you know, 14, 15.
And especially back then, speed had a really big grip on London. You know, it was a really big grip.
And I felt like I was kissing goodbye to my brain cells. I almost could sort of see them going, bye, bye, like every snip. And, you know, and you're like, ugh, like, so I wouldn't sleep. I just, I didn't eat. And I think then I was like, oh, this makes me forget. This fills the hole. And that's the terrible thing about drugs, because it only fills the hole momentarily. And you know that fear that starts creeping in, like, oh my God, shit, the hole, it's coming back, like, get me some more drugs. That's what addiction it was for me. That, yes, I'm having the best time ever. This is amazing. I'm so out of it. Like, yeah, forgetting. Oh, hang on a minute. the hole's coming back. Hold on. Oh, reality's seeping in. Quick, get me some more. Whereas other friends of mine, and it always used to amaze me. I had this one friend in particular who actually did end up developing an addiction issue. But when we were young, I used to look at them and I'd go, what do you mean you've still got a packet from like 3 weeks ago? And you're, what?
But the insanity of that to me is the other end of the spectrum of insanity.
Yes.
That whole, I can go out, I've got some Coke left upstairs from Christmas.
And I always used to think, you must be lying. Like, nobody can be like that. Everybody. And one of my favourite things now is when I go out, and I don't go out that often, but when I do, you know what I'm like with music. Music is my drug of choice.
Music is the best drug in the world, I say this all.
Best drug in the world. And it does completely change my mood.
Yeah.
It can lift me in a way that nothing else can. And I will get that euphoria, but not the druggy, but that collective kind of power of people coming together.
It's an energy, that it just, people vibrate that energy, and it's just, it takes you to other worlds. But that's what we went out in the first place for.
Yes.
We go out because Peter the barman sells good drinks. Or so there might be a guy on the dance floor that's got some pills or something in his pocket. We went out because the thrill of going and hearing music and taking it, and you know, that's it. Then suddenly what happens is that's no longer enough. So then we start to replace it, to build it, to extend it, to prolong it. And that's when we get lost. But you know, that taking it back to basics of just like the love of music, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Now, if I get that massive euphoria where I'm running down the street and I'm listening to tunes and I'm just so full of love and everything. And I think, oh my God, this is it. Like, what? Kind of I get that complete, I don't know, it's so magic and special. But I definitely feel like, the point of me talking about the music and the clubbing is that I always get asked if I'm off my head when I go out. So do you?
If I'm doing a live set and I'm lost in the music, I start to gurn, or you know, my neuropaths just go back to the old days. So
do you gurn when you DJ? Because it's what you used to do.
Tired. Yeah, for like from 28 years ago of using. So my neuropaths are used to, they associate playing music with my jaw moving.
Wow.
So automatically people go, he's off, he's nut, look at him, he's gurning. And they don't take into, don't tell me wrong. I say, actually, I think you'll find my neuropaths are fucking up. No, basically what it is, but it happens when I'm tired.
Yeah.
When I'm tired, you know, my brain neuropaths just realign and go back to that old feeling of, okay, he's exhausted, he's tired, his body's run down, let me go. Because that was what happened when I did drugs. And I would be out for 3 or 4 days. So my body my brain was so used to exhaustion that
it's a miracle that we're still alive. But like I had a massive problem. I will go back to my story in a minute. But New Year's Eve, when I got clean, I had 2 really difficult times of the year. One was New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve was classically for me a 3-dayer always. Yeah. And it was just, I'd look forward to New Year's Eve because I'd know it was an excuse. Like, and you know, usually I'd be sort of slightly trying to pretend how much I was not like, I try and hide how much I was using and pretend that I was, you know, quite together and everything to people. But New Year's Eve, I could just really let rip because everyone went mental on New Year's Eve. So I found that really hard when I got clean. And the other one was my birthday. I always went absolutely nuts on my birthday, and to not do that for many years was really difficult. But now I'm very, very happy not using. It's so
funny, isn't it? Because I hate New Year's Eve. And you know what? I build my birthday up from September, letting everyone know it's only 42 days to go and all this. And then on the day, I'm like, what have you done? What have you done? You know for well all you want to do is stay in. So this year with lockdown, my birthday was bang in the middle of it in November, and I was just like, it was heaven. I was out all day with my boyfriend and my dog, having flowers delivered. Didn't have to see anyone. There was no parties organised. It was perfect. And New Year's Eve was the same. You know, it was perfect because I was with the ones that counted. Like I had the expectations. There was
and you know what we did on New Year's Eve? We got like microphone stands, microphones, amps, guitar, keyboards. Like we had a proper sort of Von Trapp family moment. It was amazing. We did kind of karaoke.
But you would have done that normally, you know, in the old world, because that stuff wouldn't have mattered.
No.
But the thing that mattered the most was being in the best party and with the right people. It so doesn't. It so doesn't. One thing that will come from lockdown is the fact that we had that newfound, old-found reality of what we want in life. And, you know, it's always been a case, even with addicts, look at what you've got instead of what you haven't got. And that's what lockdown for me has taught me the most, is to realise what I've got. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to be running away from everything.
It's interesting because we had a little talk the other day about what lockdown's given you. And it is amazing to look at the positives that have come out of it, because I have felt very powerless, and it's brought back like quite a lot of recovery stuff for me. Powerlessness, letting go of control, because I have no control over this virus. I have no control over what the government is going to do or make me do or allow me to do or not to do, what they're going to make me wear. I hate that. I am still, Tony, a control freak.
Yeah, funny that.
Like still, I like to think that I'm not, but this virus, it's told me I am. And but letting go and understanding that I can't do anything about it has been a massive learning curve for me.
You know, it's certainly a massive wake up call. And you know, I practice this stuff. Well, I don't, because I preach it more than I practice it. And you know, and then I find myself, why am I feeling like this? And it's like, oh, there you go, because you're trying to control something you have no control over.
Yeah.
Like our using. When we were out there using, we had no control over it. No. I knew that, you know, for me, the getting of the drugs was the high. The calling, the making the call, the waiting.
Yeah, and
that's where I got high. As soon as it arrived and it was put in my hand, I'd be like, here we go again.
Yeah.
That was it. The high had gone. And I knew.
That's why I got into tattoos in recovery. So I got my first tattoo in recovery, and it was exactly the same feeling as scoring drugs. That, I'm going to organise it. I'm going, exactly. I could make the phone call. You know it's coming. The day's coming.
Mad, isn't it? I
get it done. You think, why did I do that?
I remember I was like 6 months clean and I left the house and I'd never had a tattoo before, and I was like, I came home and I had surrender written on my arm, and my boyfriend went, what the fuck you got that on your arm for? And I was like, because I've surrendered. And he was like, you're a freak. And then of course it was my recovery tattoo, and then I was like, you know, it does look a bit stupid. So 2 weeks later I left the house again and came back with,
I remember it so well.
Help me surrender. And he was like, and everyone was like, why have you got to help me on your ass? So I would be like this. It's like, it's in 2 parts. But you know, it's like another thing. I hated the pain, but I couldn't stop.
And I also learned how to ride a motorbike in recovery quite early on as well. Adrenaline.
It's funny what we chase, and it's like, anything to change the way we feel.
Yes.
And and it's a big one. It really is sugar, all of those things. And, you went on now to do, you went into that whole fitness phase, which I used to look at you and think, she's such an addict. Every Christmas there'd be another video out, another DVD, and like I'd see you and you'd be like, and I'd be like, oh my God, she doesn't stop.
Public service. But, I mean, you know what was really funny about that whole fitness thing? Because actually, weirdly, I would say I am totally addicted to sugar, but I am not addicted to exercise. Like, I still have to make myself go. I probably exercise. Well, in lockdown, I wouldn't call walking the dog exercise because that's mandatory. So I will work out 4 times a week probably, which I don't think is excessive. And it's between half an hour and 45 minutes a time. And that keeps me ticking over. And I really don't want to do more than that. Like, I can't be on
mates that do
my life.
3 times a day. What's that about?
Yeah. But exercise has changed my life in a really amazing way. And more probably to do with my mental health now than anything else, especially in the last year, obviously. But when I do it, the feeling that I get after, and again, we're talking about the buzz, the sort of the euphoria, the sweat.
Serotonin and endorphins, that release of endorphins just makes you feel so good. I get out of bed and I have to go to Battersea Park to train in the rain or in the snow. I don't actually go in the rain. I always use that as an excuse. But I have to go over there, and when I get there, I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? And by the time I left, I actually know why I've done it.
Yeah.
I feel really good about myself. And, and of course that doesn't last for long.
No.
That lasts for a couple of hours, and then, that the endorphins go down and you're back to normal, and then you think, a can of Coke, a Mars bar, a Ripple, all of that stuff that comes into play, and it's about changing that. Exactly. Coffee, it's addicted. And I'm taking ketones at the moment because I'm on a keto diet, and I'm addicted to them. I actually come 6 o'clock, I think, I need more ketone. It's so insane. It's like, it just doesn't stop, and we have to be aware of it. When I want to go back to your story, when did the realization that you couldn't do this anymore?
So basically, my drug of choice was heroin, and I went from speed then to coke. Coke is really expensive. Like, for a girl, like a 17, 18-year-old girl still at school, like how do you afford drugs? But then I left school. I didn't go to university. I'd messed up my A-levels. I'd messed up everything, basically. I was, going to try and go to university. Didn't get the grades to go in there. Got a place at a poly. Couldn't be asked to go to poly. Got a job in a restaurant. I was really kind of just doing the sort of bare minimum. The restaurant job.
You started DJing.
Huh?
Then you started DJing.
Well, no, then I got a job at Models One, and Models One was like kind of the big changing point. Like, I mean, I was partying a lot, and it was the ecstasy era, and it was like late 80s, early 90s, summer of love, Rodders, like, everybody just sort of hugging everybody and stroking everybody and blowing in everybody's ears and telling everybody they loved it. The Lyceum.
Yeah, the playground at the Lyceum.
The playground. Oh.
I'll send you a hoodie. We just done some hoodies with that on the back.
Shut up.
Yeah, I'll send you one this week.
Oh, yeah. So I remember that as being like a really crazy fun time. But then around the same time, I found somebody. I'd been taking bits of heroin in Paris. Paris was a very kind of, I used to go to Paris to go and visit my mother. There was no boundaries with my mother. She wasn't really around. I could go out till whatever time with whoever. She just, but in England, I was with my dad and my stepmom, so they kept quite a beady eye on me. So I'd been taking bits of heroin in Paris with various people. Then I moved out of home in England into a flat got a job at Models One, then also got a job because it was models. I got a job running a club with Graham because I could invite all the pretty people, you know, all the beautiful people came down on my guest list. And then I had money. And that was really dangerous, right? Just like I suddenly had money to feed the monster. And there were a million excuses. You know, I was brought up by my granny. I was a God-fearing teenage girl. I was I always say this, half nun, half wild child. Like there was a part of me that was so compliant and such a good girl. I never stole. I never really injected. I tried it a couple of times in Paris, but I never injected in the UK. I was always I always put myself above the dirty, scuzzy junkies.
Yeah, that's what we all do.
Yeah, I go, oh, look at them. They're terrible. I'm taking heroin, but I'm not as bad as them.
Yeah, I was a crackhead, and I used to look down my nose at crackheads because, you know, like all the time. My sister-in-law at the time was an alcoholic, and God forbid I couldn't even be seen talking to her in the street. I had no teeth, and I had like weighed 7 stone, but I still couldn't be seen talking to her because she was an alkie.
But isn't that I've
never been talking to a pisshead. Do you know, that was my thinking, and I was more of an alcoholic than she'll ever be. Do you know
what was it when you realised that actually you were that person? Because that's the thing that got me into the meetings. There was a moment where I was like, oh my God, I am the person that I've been slagging off all this time.
Totally. I was in the post office. I told the story a few times. I was in the post office at Mount Pleasant, and I was going in there to claim sickness benefit or something that I was like, you know, had 1,000,001 like scams on the go, as you do as an active addict. And I remember being in the queue, and there was this Scottish woman and her boyfriend at the front of the queue arguing with the guy behind the glass, holding up the queue. And they were like, because he wouldn't give them their gyro money, and she had no idea. And it was like she was going mental. And I was like, listen, you crackhead, you're holding up the queue, get out. And she turned around and she literally looked at me, she said, you're no better than us. How dare you? You're one of us. Look at the state of you. And I was like horrified. I remember ringing James up and going, James, bring the dogs to the post office. I'm being attacked. And but that was kind of like the first realization of, oh my God, look at you. You are. And another time I was at an after hours again in King's Cross, and I remember being in the toilet with these kids and they're doing drugs, one of my mates, and this guy comes and starts a fight, and I went, oh yeah, break it. He went, who are you? They're junkie granddad. And I was like, that was kind of like, oh my God, I actually am their junkie granddad.
Yeah.
You know? But in my eyes, I've got great cheekbones. I'm amazing.
This is the thing. And you know Sarah, my best friend.
Yeah.
So Sarah called me up, and this was right at the end. And in fact, weirdly, I'd weaned myself off heroin about 2 months. I'd got myself a physical heroin habit, which I'd sort of avoided for a long time. And I got some methadone, and I did a massive geographical, and I went away with my little bit of methadone, and I weaned myself off every day. Horrible sweats, aching, puking, bile, but I just, little bit every day, less. And I had weaned myself off heroin. I was like, brilliant, because heroin is my problem. I do not have a problem with any other drugs. And I got back and I went out to that Monday night club called Green Onions that we used to do on Kensington High Street. And I went there, and somebody put some cash in my hand, went, oh, this is some money, you've made some money while they were in. It was like, I don't know, it was like 200 quid. And I was like, oh. Then somebody went, do you want a line? I was like, I shouldn't really, because I haven't, but I mean, one line won't hurt. Anyway, 24 hours later, I'm getting asked to leave a flat. Like, everyone's left, and the guy that owns the flat is going, sorry, could you leave? Because like, I want to go to bed. And I was like, please, can I just stay? Can I just stay? And he said, no, I really would like you to go. So it's a shame. So then I walk out of the flat, and I look at everybody, walking down the street, and I think, oh my God, you've all slept. You've all slept. I go home, and I'm sitting, sort of, it's lunchtime, And then Sarah in the evening comes along, and I get in the car and I'm feeling absolutely terrible. And she's going to take me to a gig. And she says, I told you I was going to take you to a gig, but I'm not. I was like, oh, thank fuck for that. And she goes, I actually wanted to just get you in the car to tell you that I know you've been lying to me, and I know you've been taking gear and heroin, and everybody talks about you. Every dinner party I go to, everybody's talking about what a mess you are. And I was like, what? And that was like a dagger. I thought, oh my God, I am the topic of discussion at dinner parties. And I said, well, you know, and she said, and quite frankly, until you want to do something about it, I can't be your friend anymore. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of your lies. And I'm sick. I was like, well, fuck you. Like, you know, I don't need you. Like, I'm absolutely fine, actually. And, you know, and I got out of the car, and as I walked away from the car, I am sobbing. And I got into my room, and I suddenly also remembered that I was supposed to pick up my little sister from school, and I'd forgotten, you know, earlier. And I was like, I got into my room and I thought, I hate myself. I hate myself so much. I thought there's only two options left. And I felt so disgusting and toxic. And I thought, like, nobody wants me. No, like, I've got no one left. I got asked to leave the flat. My best friends left me. I was sleeping in a camp bed in my dad's, like, wardrobe cupboard. You know, I'd left my boyfriend because he was the problem. Like, he was the reason I was losing. I was worse without him. I was that, you know, I had a car. I had no job. I had a car, but I couldn't afford to put petrol in the car. I was like at the dead end. This was the end. If I carried on using, I'd be on the street, and I had to just stop. And so I called Mary Parkinson.
Oh, bless her heart. Yeah.
I called Mary Parkinson, and she said, oh, hi. Like she'd been expecting my call.
Yeah. I wondered when you were going to turn up. Yeah, that one.
And she said, hi. Oh yeah, I'm going tomorrow. No, I'm going to, tomorrow, because this was like the next morning. I'm going today. I could meet you at the 6 o'clock in Chelsea. And I said, okay, I'll meet you at 6 o'clock in Chelsea. And I put the phone down. I was like, oh my God. Because up till that point, I was like, I'm not an addict. I can just give up one drug and keep taking the others non-addictively. But I took one line of Coke and I was up for 24 hours. You know, I couldn't take half an E. I had to take 5. I just couldn't. And it was like suddenly everything started doing a Tetris, falling into place. I went sort of the Matrix, and I thought, oh my God, I'm an addict. I'm an addict. And so I got turned up at this meeting, and I was a little bit late, obviously. And I sort of slid into the back and sat down, and everybody at the meeting turned around, and a few people, you know, I knew some of these people because a lot of them were people I'd used with, or I'd been to a couple of meetings before and then decided it wasn't for me because they were all scuzzy junkies and I wasn't there yet. And I sat at the back and I thought, oh God. And then at the end it went, we've got 10 minutes for newcomers or people who find it hard to share. And I went, and I felt like everybody turned around and looked at me.
Yeah, of course.
And I went, my name's Davina. And then I thought, oh my God, you've got to say it. And I said, and I'm an addict. And then I started crying, and I don't think I stopped for 2 weeks. The surrender. Oh my God, just saying it. And then I was like, I want to tell everyone I'm an addict. That's why. Yeah. This is like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then I got the joys. It was really, really.
I mean, it's such a powerful thing to actually sit and admit that you have a problem, and that But I always say to people that one of the bravest things you'll ever do is ask for help.
Yes.
And one of the strongest things you'll ever do is actually say those words, I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic. Because it's like that self-acceptance of, okay, wow, I've been holding that up and I've been denying that for so long.
And the really important thing is that, you know, when we get to the point where we go to a meeting or we go to treatment or we do something, we are broken. We hate ourselves so much. And this idea that you say to a group of people, I am an addict, and they still want to ask you out for a coffee afterwards.
Yeah.
And they will still talk to you or smile at you. And you think, oh my God, you don't hate me? Like you're accepting me for who I am? Or you think I'm brave? Like what?
Yeah. You know, you sit there and you tell people how you robbed off your mum, or you've done this and you've done that, and you've done the most things that you think are the worst things that ever a human being can do. And they've all done the same and they relate to it. You're like, wow, that power just went straight out there, because we carry such shame as addicts all the way through our lives, all the way through our lives. And if you throw trauma into the mix with that as well, you know, like you did with your mum leaving and all that stuff, that trauma we carry on for our lives, and it multiplies and becomes so big that when we use, it's expected of ourselves. We're like, well, you know, you don't know what it's like for me. You don't know what I've been through. And, you know, and we put that stuff on it. And then it just becomes so exhausting, and we become so bankrupt in every area. And when we actually get to that point of breaking point where you think, okay, I actually have got a problem. And then 2 days later, you haven't got a problem anymore because you're using again. And, you know, and that's the process. And suddenly when it gets to the end of the road where you don't have those 2-day breaks anymore, that you can't go on anymore, and you actually want that. I always call it the God-given moment that changes everything, because, you know, it's that moment that you think, I am an addict. And you say it, it's an incredible feeling.
Sometimes when I meet people, because I know this happens to you because I've sent people your way to talk to and stuff, and I always try and sort of send guys your way, and I always would try and help women, because very quickly it does become incredibly intimate, and sometimes there becomes this slight you know, I just have to be a bit careful around it. But, you know, just this idea of trying to help somebody, and knowing that when I talk to them, it might not be their God-given moment, but it might be the seed.
That's the one.
That grows a tiny little bit that leads them to the God-given moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I talk to somebody, I think, well, you might not get this, or I don't know if you're ready, but maybe this is the beginning of your journey to getting clean, you know.
I remember that point when I rang you and said, Davina, I'm in recovery. And you were like, oh my God, I thought you were dead.
Yeah. I really did, because I actually, up to a point, I heard quite a lot about you. And I ripped up my address book when I got clean. I had to. And so I just literally stopped clubbing, stopped seeing anybody, stopped going anywhere. But I would always hear about people, and I kept hearing about you, you know, Tony's still DJing, blah, blah, blah. And then you just disappeared. And I thought something bad, like I knew, you know, we used together, like we were insane. And I thought, well, that's going to be messy. Like, and I'd heard that you got really bad, and then I didn't hear anything. So your call was so like, what? You're alive!
You can't get rid of me. I'm like a cockroach. You know,
it's very special call, that.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, because it just those words that, oh my God, I thought you were dead. And, you know, it kind of brings it back home to you, the fact that in so many ways I was dead. I was dead. I'd lost the will to live, and I'd lost all self-worth and who I was. And, you know, there's 95% of me was dead. The rest of it was surviving, you know, because the addict in me kept me alive.
How did you get clean?
I actually was very much, I had that God-given moment of like of change, where I was in the club rocking backwards and forwards, and someone came in and said the right thing at the right time, and I left the club that night, the Cross, and then started my journey of going to drug rehabilitation drop-in centres, and then they kept suggesting that I go to the rooms, and I was like, no. They all use the word God. I'm not interested. The reason I was saying no to it was because I knew they worked. Because so many of our friends, like Paul and Richard, all these people had gone there and got clean, and I knew it worked. So, but I couldn't let go of my life, because that was my life. My life was shit, but it was my shit. and there was something really warm and comfortable about that pain, because that's all I was used to. So I started that process, and I started going to meetings, going there, and I couldn't get it. I was still using, pretending to be clean, change dealers, all of that stuff.
So painful, that.
Yeah, and you know, and then my friend Bruce would say to me, "Oh, come on, I'll come and get you, and we'll go to this meeting, girl." And I'll be like, "All right." I'll have to go to the meeting, and sit there just using. And then it was one night, faking it to make it, and this woman opened her mouth and shared her truth like we're doing now, and it just clicked. And then I went away to Bournemouth for 6 months. And I always say, I'm not sure if it's the thought of ever having to go back to Bournemouth that keeps me clean, or, or the fact that I do you know what I mean? Bournemouth. And, but you know what, for me today, it's, you know, recovery is, you know, it's not a way of life, it is life. And, you know, I always want everybody to have what I've got when it comes to recovery. I see wounded pigeons, and I want to fix their wings, and you know that's what I do. Then that's the joys of recovery. You know, that process of what we've got, we give away, and people go, "Oh, you know," they message me and they go, "I know you haven't got time to reply to me," and I reply to them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like people ring and go, "Look, I'm in a really bad way," and I will spend all night talking to them or directing them, putting them into places, you know. And that's a gift that's been given to me so freely that I have to, in order to keep me well, is to carry that on.
Well, you are very, very amazing at that. Like, really amazing. I've seen you help so many people. I mean, it's been interesting in lockdown, I think, the amount of people that are drinking a lot a lot more, and the amount of people that have kind of realized that maybe they might need a bit of help. It is worth saying that my recovery, having been around the rooms for such a long time, I had slightly gone skeleton meetings, like not that often. I'd dip in and dip out. I wouldn't have a home group. I'd sort of, because I thought, oh, I'm so clean. But actually, lockdown has been amazing because they've gone on Zoom. And I live in the country, and so it's harder for me to get to like meetings that, you know, there aren't as many meetings to get to. And Zoom meetings have changed my life. So if anybody's watching this and they want to try a meeting, or they might think that they might have a problem with drinking or drugs, a Zoom meeting is a very safe and feels like a really nice way to dip in and sort of feel us out, like see what we're like, because it's an amazing way to access recovery. I think it's changed meetings
also,
forever.
which is important about it is that you can go on there and you can leave your camera off.
Yeah.
If you're having a bad day, and you can just listen. You don't have to go there. And not everyone's going to be looking at you, because there's like 60 other little squares on that screen. And that's the beauty of it. You know, you're not walking into a room. Yeah, the magic of meetings and the circle and all of that is incredible. But Zoom's a different experience. And I do a meeting every day at 1 o'clock. And through that meeting, there are so many people. In the last 11 months have got clean in that meeting, and some of them are coming up to a year, and that's through Zoom.
Great. Wow, that's so great.
Incredible. And that's in the middle of a pandemic, you know, when they're up, their backs are against the wall and they've lost that human touch. Zoom enables it to bring that recovery into your house.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do on a daily basis. We need to let that recovery in, whether it be through God or whatever you believe in. It's about believing in yourself primarily. Everything else will fall into place. And you know, that's why we started this series. The recovery was so that people could get what we get from meetings. They could come here and they could get that identification in their own living rooms, or however they listen to it or watch it. And I think it was really important that we got that across, that you know, as the alcohol rates went up and the drug abuse and any form of abuse was going up during lockdown, because people's worlds got smaller, that we opened up their worlds by telling them they're not alone.
Yeah.
We have exactly the same problems as you, this person, that person. And it's really important that people identify with, you know, oh my God, I can't tell anyone that I pissed the bed, or I can't tell anyone that I did this or did that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's no shame attached to it.
What's so great about a meeting, I mean, I'm not trying to kind of sell meetings in any way, but what I love about a meeting is that you might say I remember when I first got clean, you know, I had to confess that I was taking heroin in the toilet at a committee meeting for an action on addiction ball.
Yeah. Hello.
Like, I am so bad. Like, I'm
trying
to pretend to these people that I'm clean, but I'm taking actual heroin in the, you know, what is like the mess of it all. But when I did confess that, and I thought this really is going to make everybody hate me, everybody just looked at me and sort of like slightly laughed and went, yeah, we get that. Like, we understand. That's how bad it gets. This is, you know, and I actually think that's the really important part, is to say no fuck up is so bad that you can't get clean.
100%.
Nothing.
If I can get clean and come back from death, anyone can do it. And you know, it's that whole, you know, you know, it's just such a sad thing when people don't think they can get it. And you know what, you show them the way and they're not ready, and then they don't come back to say,
yeah, that's
I've had that happen so many times. You know, when people really get it, and it's such an incredible thing, because there's so many other avenues, not just meetings. There's so many ways.
No, exactly, so many ways. And
you know, and it all starts with you. It starts with you. You know, you're the one that has to say, you know what, I've got a problem and I want to change this. And then
so they are like never alone.
No,
never
not when they got you around.
With big hug.
You know that, Davina. I love you. And I love thinking so much. You know, I really seriously think that the reason that you are such the way you are in life, with the calmness and everything else that you've got and everything you bring in, is because you've been so honest about your addiction. You're not one of these addicts that doesn't want anyone to know because it might ruin their career, or it doesn't want anyone to know because they might be judged. You get it all out there, no one can judge you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And you know, you take the power out of it. And I always believe that however, when life is so bad, it can only get better.
Yeah.
And you're a proof of that, you know. And I'm so happy you did the recovery with us. And I'm so happy.
Thanks for having me, Tony. And keep shining the light. You're amazing.
I try. You know what? You know, the message you've given today is such a strong one. You know that however bad it is, you can always get through it, and you can achieve. I always say to people that I help or work with, or my sponsees, that there's no such word as I can't, and you're proof of that. You're proof of that. Because you know, the girl can't go there, I can't do. You can go bloody anywhere. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't use and you're honest. End of story. You know, we come into recovery. I thought my life would never, ever. What was I going to do when I stopped doing drugs? I couldn't DJ. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. And you know, I can't. And you know what? You can. You can do bloody anything you want to. You can go anywhere as long as you stay connected. It's simple. I love you.
I love you too.